Welcome to our experiment, the 100-Person Project Simple Questions for 100 People. I'm Bill Carell, and this is my investigation. This is my research project to gather data from 100 beautiful human beings for the sole purpose to see what actually happens across the interviews. Now, the questions are fixed, and all the interviews will remain consistent, with the variable being the actual participants themselves and, of course, their answers. So it's as if, Sam, I'm having you come sit on my porch to share your thoughts so I can learn about people. Now, I'm looking forward to what we're going to learn at the end of this, and I have no idea what it's going to be when we're complete and have interviewed 100 people, but very interested in all the people, the process, and of course, your particular story. And it's my distinct pleasure. Well, okay, why don't we have you introduce yourself? What is your full name?
My full name is Samantha Meredith Ruth.
Samantha Meredith Ruth. And what are the origins of the particles of your name? Who did you get them from?
My parents, Terry Scharf. My dad's name is Melvin Scharf, but he goes by Buddy.
Nice. Great. And anything in particular about those names? Were they
Well, I was
from
supposed to be named Rebecca. Thank God. Nothing against a Rebecca, but I just don't see myself as a Becky or and when I was born, my dad decided I did not look like one, and Samantha I became.
I think that's awesome. I have a Becky, by the way. And no, you don't necessarily look like a Becky, but I could see you going a lot of different ways, depending on whoever it was that loved you and named you. So, along those lines, what is your favorite nickname that most people don't know?
My dad calls me Sambo.
Sambo? I like it. And when did he start calling you that?
God, as long as I can remember, like my brother, a lot of family called me Sammy, but he's the only one who ever called me Sambo.
And the Sambo is your favorite?
For sure.
Give you a good feeling when you say, "Yeah, you're smiling." Okay, I get it. So, now here's an interesting one. When did you first notice what color hair you had?
I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. Probably, I would say sometime in elementary school.
Can you recall any time when it was kind of interesting or important to you?
I'm not a girly girl.
You're not, are you?
Mm-mm.
So what kinda girl are you?
I'm a tomboy, um, total tomboy, sports, no dolls, no pink.
Never mind what color it is, it's in my way. Can I get it out of here?
Yes.
Good for you. So, I'm gonna resist calling you any of nicknames simply because I don't have your permission yet, but at some point along in our relationship, I will. Now, what is your favorite thing to do to intentionally waste time?
Anything with my dogs.
So say some more about that. Do you have more than one?
I have 2. This is my youngest.
Yep.
Cassie is turning 12 this year. Don't know exactly when. Dallas is 5. And so anything. If we have time, an outdoor adventure somewhere, but we can amuse ourselves with a stick.
Yeah. Do you throw balls? Do you have one of those big, long plastic tubers that you chuck it and it goes about 100 yards and then they get it and they come back panting? That's one of my favorite things in the world. And it's amazing. I guess there's a thing inside of the dog, the way that they're wired, no matter how many times you throw that ball. I've never seen one get disinterested and kind of look away and go, I'm not doing it.
Oh no. No, and the reason I hesitated was because to me it's just not a waste of time. That was why I had
Right.
to think.
Is there something else that you do that you would consider a waste of time? Because I agree with you. That's building relationship with a family member, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get like wasting time, TV, football, sports, but I love that.
Well, since you brought it up, we got creamed last night by Creighton in Omaha. They won by 20 points, and that was really just a flash knockout. So I'm still recovering from that. Anyway, so this one will be kind of interesting, and I really don't know what your favorite is, but what's your favorite movie to watch alone?
Not much of a movie person. Shawshank Redemption.
I get it. What do you like about it?
I'm a big Morgan Freeman fan. I love the struggle, the storyline, the overcome, the wrong do it, I just the whole movie. That's I and it's not my favorite to watch alone. It's probably my favorite movie overall, but I'm not good with favorites. Usually I have to say 3 or 4. Um, but there's nothing not to like about that movie.
Well, I'll tell you what, I completely agree with you. There is so much in terms of the character development and the ending. If you haven't watched this movie, you folks at home, I highly recommend it. It is one of probably the top 5 movies, as far as I'm concerned, for showing off who Morgan Freeman is and the diversity of his acting talent. He can be anybody at any time that he needs to, even God. So, if you were to have an action figure made of you, Samantha, what superpower would it have and what colors would the uniform be?
Green, even though I went to Michigan Go Blue. It's big. I have to clarify. And like the Jetsons, where you could get in the elevator and go anywhere in a blink.
Yep.
That would be my power.
Without, yeah, so you get in the
Without
elevator
the
and you
elevator, I would just be able to go from, I could just, hi, get to you in a blink.
love the Stephen Wright quote where he says, "I got into the elevator and I pressed Pittsburgh."
Right.
Not bad.
The
So
one thing, because so many of my people are not next door.
I hear you on that. I've got family spread all over the world. I'm primarily concentrated in the United States, but they're also in Australia, South Africa, and Dubai. So I've been trying to figure out. I've been in the IT industry a very long time. I've been trying to figure out how to send myself as an email attachment for about 30 years.
Yes.
I don't got it yet, but I'm working on it.
Back to the future. These are the inventions we need, but forward.
So she's got a mind of her own. My watch just all of a sudden answers or says that she's looking for stuff on the internet. I don't know what we say to get her excited, but there she is. So let's talk a little bit more about the ability to go somewhere at the blink of an eye. And would it mostly just be to be around loved ones, or would you use it in a different way where you could teleport, like, whole towns and, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, no, I'd travel. I'd do, crazy, crazy things. Change the world.
Well, yeah, you're going to do that anyway, I'm pretty sure. So where in the world would you like to go that this would make it available to you?
So New Zealand is top of my list.
Islands or fjords or both or all of the above?
All of the above. That would be so Jim and I went to the world doesn't know who Jim is yet, but I went to Costa Rica for my honeymoon, and we had planned to go to New Zealand for my 10-year anniversary, which is this year.
Yep.
So,
You're going to be otherwise engaged as far
I
as I'm.
will be. I know, but it's next on my big trip. Like where would my next big trip be there?
Yeah. I share your passion. It's on our bucket list as well. And I have an attorney that I worked with. He was my corporate attorney until he retired for 30 years. And he spent 6 months over there.
Mm,
both in the northern and the southern half that I guess are divided by a body of water or a huge, I don't know what it is because I don't know the geography, but he's really good at talking about it. And he said he that's where he really got the passion for walking. You know, he just hikes all the time. He's about 77 years old, and he's in better physical shape than most 20-year-olds that I know.
I believe it.
And you did mention something about Jim, and that's kind of up to you. This is your time. This is your story, and if that's something you'd like to, let folks know about, I'm more than happy to give you the microphone for a minute or two, or we can move on.
Oh, Jim is everything. He's the love of my life. I met him when I was 24, just finishing my master's degree. We were young and silly and stupid. So we were together for a few years. And then we went our separate ways, knowing that we were meant for each other. So neither one of us found anyone else during that time. And we reconnected. And he had moved to Colorado. We're both from Michigan. And he said, please don't make me move back there. And so we were engaged in months. And I moved to Colorado. We were married, and he unexpectedly passed away from an undetected heart condition he'd had his whole life, less than 4 years after that. So,
I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'll tell you what, I know that's a big part of your life now in terms of what you're doing and your commitment to make the world a better place and to change it.
yes,
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the Michigan experience. Whereabouts in Michigan were you?
the Metro Detroit area, not the pretty parts.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, there's some cool stuff going on there too. My dad was he was a city boy. He was born and raised downtown, and he worked for an exclusive grocer while he was in high school, delivering food to all of the Fords and the DuPonts and all of the other folks in Detroit. And the other thing is that I had his whole side of the family that lived there. My grandfather and grandmother lived on University, which was about 4 blocks away from the Algiers riots back in 19 Algiers Street riots in 1968. So if I say Warren and I say Royal Oaks and I say Rochester and Sterling Heights, and DeQuinder and those are.
My hood.
Yeah, exactly. So we spent some lovely time there, a few trips, but before I was 14 years old. But yeah, it was great. So let's move on to what did you want to grow up to be when you were 5 years old?
This I knew. Like, I'm one of those people who always knew. I don't think I knew the word psychologist, but I knew I would be doing something of this nature. And by 7, I knew. I went on a field trip with school, and I went to a private school at that point in time.
Yeah,
Very diverse. You're laughing.
I'm laughing because I can just see you sitting at a little, a little kiosk like Lucy Van Pelt in Peanuts. The doctor is way in nickels, 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 nickels.
Well, I went on this field trip and I went to this small private school. I was this big. My best friend was to me, she was a giant,
Yeah.
uh, black girl. I did not know this. And we went on a field trip where we were with a bunch of other schools, and she got bullied and she froze. So
Wow.
little me, like 2 foot tall Sam, took over. And I came to the rescue. But I came home from school, and please don't anyone take offense to this. I was 7 years old. I told my parents I wanted to become black with Heather because I did not understand the difference, and I was disturbed. And I, from that moment on, wanted to be the voice of anyone who didn't have one. I wanted to, change injustice. And so I did. You can picture, there I was, this little tiny uh 7-year-old, bound and determined. And at that point my dad laughed like, oh, and now he's like, she did it.
Yep.
She's doing it.
Good for you. And I'll tell you what, I really think that from the mouths of babes, you get such pure authenticity and genuineness in that moment. Of course you did. I mean, how could you not want to be, that person who steps in because you had a successful experience, doing that, and I'm sure you became like friends for life, at least until the next 3 grades, right?
I don't know where she is. I'm on a mission to find her also.
Good.
Um, but no, we were dear, dear friends until we both changed schools after 6th grade. That's a defining moment in my life
Yeah. I'm
and
with
hers,
you.
I would imagine.
Oh, I'm clearly she was probably telling the story a few minutes ago, to someone else. No doubt about it.
Yeah,
And
this little kid.
I know. And, when I think about that for a minute, and you were 5 years old and you were already thinking in terms, did you know what the word was or what it meant or how you would do it? You just wanted to help people, right?
And I wanted to help the underdog.
Champion for a noble cause. Yes, that would be you. No doubt about it.
I
Uh,
didn't wanna just work with kids, I wanted to work with the kids no one else wanted to work with.
I hear that. I mean, God, that just touches my heart. That's exactly who I am as well. Let's just say that there are lots of ways for folks that have been noticed to get help. It's the quiet ones over in the corner that you have no idea what's going on. Those, when you turn them loose on the world and give them a sense of who they are, mind, spirit, and body, you couldn't stop them if you tried. And it's really like looking at the Grand Canyon to watch somebody like that open up and really for the first time in their lives figure out who they are. So that's me saying what I got from you. Whether I received it correctly or not, I'm sure you'll let me know.
Well, and I'm from my dad's a retired doctor, at a lot of medical people in my world, so I thought psychiatrist or hospitals, and then I was like, "No, no, they get you for 5 minutes, and then you leave. That
Right.
that won't do." So I had to explore and find my way, but that wasn't good enough. Like, that was 5 minutes, and then they're gone. I wanted the relationship.
Well, I'll tell you what, I never even heard about a psychologist or a psychiatrist other than TV and never had an idea of what it was until I got out of college. And someone told me they were a lot older than me, and they were mentioning that they had been they had an analyst that they had had for 18 years, and it was going really well. And I and I said 18 years and it's going really well. And they said, what if you didn't have that person? He says, I'm not going to try it. He says, "This allows me to go and flush my brain out, once every 2 weeks." He says, "It's not a lot of money." At that time, I think it was like $40 a session. I don't even wanna know what it is these days, but yes. So, you get a relationship with a lot of people that even if you're not, producing some kind of a product for them in terms of the psychoanalyst or psychology, you have friends that for the rest of your life, they're gonna come look you up, like a really great, high school teacher or something.
Yeah, confidentiality is really important to me, but we were on a call last night and you saw two different examples of someone who I've stayed in touch with for 20 years and someone I reconnected with but chose to share. I used to work with Sam, and because of that, I almost cried. I'm going to cry now. I chose to become a psychologist. Like,
Yes.
these are, there are some people who maybe see you and don't remember you, but I can tell you, if you said Joe Schmo, I can remember every detail. They touch my life as much as they say I touch theirs.
Yeah. I get it, and I've noticed it and put it into my column of "That's pretty freaking cool," okay? So, here's the next one. What is your greatest accomplishment?
I think it's happening. You're watching it. We're
Mhm.
doing some pretty big stuff. In honor of losing my husband, I've created what I call grief hab, which is rehab for grief because I couldn't find the support I needed. And I am doing things to change this grief world that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, and this would be a great spot for you to say a little bit more about that because I do know that this is a burgeoning field. And last night on the call, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I almost said out loud, I said, y'all are using some jargon that I'm not really familiar with. And it's powerful to have distinctions, behind that jargon that allow you access to being able to communicate with people and be with precision, and that's true for everything. It's true in what I do in the IT industry. I did a lot of um, grease monkey stuff in my early 20s and some carpentry. And there's things that you just have to be able to say in the language of whatever that discipline is. And so I'm glad to be around. It's nice to learn something new every time I'm around you folks.
And I truly believe, I was always ready to change the way the world viewed mental health. I knew
Yeah,
that I was doing that. When I lost Jim, I suddenly learned that the grief world is really similar. People looked at me like I had horns. They didn't know how to talk to me. All of a sudden I was like, there's a similarity here. And you lose people. It became very, very isolating. So the mission became to change the way the world views grief and mental illness.
sure.
And there's just nothing out there.
Yeah,
There's just not. And what isn't enough. Uh, you heard so many people say I wasn't even given a pamphlet. The places that you should be getting a resource or somebody saying, let me help you find something at the time of loss. It doesn't happen
yeah,
when you're going through this trauma, and we're left to our own devices when we are at our lowest point.
yeah. Well, what possibility? And I'll tell you what, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sure before Jim, you probably thought about grief in a particular way, and then afterwards, I'm sure that transformed into something that was full of rich distinctions. And last night we were talking about using words like navigate, negotiate, and all this sort of thing. With I never even thought that grief was something there was anything you could do about, and to me it was like the getting punched in the nose over and over and over again, and that's it. I just knew it hurt, you know. So I appreciate that, and I really think that it is your greatest accomplishment because you are training other people. You're providing a leadership that I think is really needed in the world. And in terms of questions for 100 really beautiful people, I'm glad we're spending some time today. Okay,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. So along those lines, or maybe completely different domain, who's your favorite person to listen to, Sam?
Jack Canfield, who is the creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series,
Yep.
has been a mentor of mine for my entire probably since I was in college, and I've always used his books with my clients. And when I lost Jim, and I was sitting under a tree with my one dog Sassy and his book, The Success Principles, someone came up and said, "Are you part of his training group?" And I did not know he had one. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to work with him in person. So not only is he a mentor out there in the figurative world, he's actually somebody who helped me get through when I really thought I would not only never work in my own field again, I didn't know what was next. So he's my favorite.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, from my standpoint, the Chicken Soup for the Soul original one and Success Principles and all that, something I read all those years ago, but I'd be hard pressed to tell you word for word what's in it. It just left me with a particular feeling, and that particular feeling is basically anything is possible for anybody at any time.
And it's not rocket science, right? It's stuff that we can all do and apply to our daily life. And if you do it and you do it consistently, you can have a different outlook and a different quality. And my life has changed because of it. And I've met the people who helped me get here.
Yes. And I'll tell you what, that's not for nothing. There are some people that are really good to have in your Rolodex, and I don't think that If you wanted to be six degrees of separation from anybody on the planet, he removes a bunch of degrees for you, just by being who he is. No doubt about it. So I'm having fun with my electronics over here. They've got a mind of their own today,
Could
and
be Jim. I
could
told you,
be.
always.
It could be, no doubt about it. So, all right. So that's cool. You like to listen to Jack, and with darn good reason. He's been transformational in your life and giving you an awful lot of energy and a lot of support just thinking about him. So let's move on to the next question. And that is, please complete this sentence. When I grow up, I'd like to.
Play.
Interesting. And I get it. That's so say some more about that so the folks at home can start to grasp it and take it on board.
I had to grow up too fast. I've taken life too seriously for a
Yeah.
long time. Losing Jim has made me take life, I don't wanna say less. I'm very intentional with how I spend my time, with who I spend my time,
Right.
and as hard as I work, I spend all my time working to change this world. When I grow up, I also wanna have fun, and, I have a lot of pain, so, I want my free time to be enjoyable and happy and, laughing and fun.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. So the neat part of all of that is that the fun and the happiness and all the rest of that is something that comes from inside of you. It's not out there in the world. There's no place to look for it that if you cut it open, you'll find happiness and fun on the inside. And I know you know that because the minute that you said it, your face just lit up like a Christmas tree. It was fantastic. So I don't have any question, and I get the feeling also that you're having that future fun now in a lot of instances, and thanks for sharing that. That's what I wanted to get out there for the folks at home.
Well, to anybody in a struggle also, I will say that last year, which was my 6th year, is the first year that I started to enjoy living again. It's the first year that I wasn't forcing myself. I was doing things and enjoying them. So
Yeah,
even being able to say that answer, that's something I didn't know if I would smile again. So that really truly is for people who have been through what we've been through, something that I didn't even know if I would be able to do again.
it's in the classification of big deal, you
Yeah.
know? That most people take, for granted, and they have their moments and all the rest of that and move on. Uh, and at some point, you have to be a very strong person to get back to have the trust in the universe to be able to generate that for yourself, in my opinion. So I like it. Have fun when you grow up. I think you're doing that. So, pass. What is the most important thing in life to you right now?
Family's always the most important thing in life to me. I was torn between this mission, but family first always.
Say some more about that. Who is your family? How many folks would you consider to be family, and what's their relationship to you?
Well, you met Dallas. I have Sassy sitting over here right now, who is my oldest. My parents, I have a younger brother and two nieces who are my world.
Yeah.
It took Jim, I would not have left Michigan. And big tribute to my brother because my youngest niece is 11. I've been in Colorado over 10 years, and I was very nervous to leave, thinking I wouldn't be as close with her as I am with my oldest. And we are the best of friends. And so that says a lot about my brother, my relationship with him, and what he's done for us to be as close. So that's my biological family.
Well, I'm guessing it says a lot about you as well. I have a feeling that you have the, capacity to unlock love inside of other human beings at a master level, and not in a manipulative way, but in a way that basically allows people to strip away the nonsense and just get to what's genuine and true.
Well, thank you. I haven't heard that before. Thank you.
Well, I'm a fairly good listener, people tell me, and I can hear that all around you in the in what's not being said, okay? So, that's a great thing to be important to you right now. And the next question is kind of like a summary for what we've talked about and whatever else you want to add in there, Sam. What would you like to leave in the world after your life is done?
Uh, I I I want to be the person who changed this grief culture and mental illness. I am going to be.
Yes. Yes, and by being an icon and being willing to be used by that, yeah, that whole thing, it's kinda similar with, there's a lot of people who think they understand who Jack Canfield is, or they think they understand who Deepak, Chopra is, and what they have inside of them is only a taste of it, and unfortunately, without really knowing the whole person, what you get to take away is the good stuff, and people may not realize what you've actually done and how you've worked in the world. Just that you, golly, you got to be a really smart chick, didn't you?
I lack some common sense. I don't have the best street smarts, but intelligence, book smarts, they're there, yes.
100%. You have worked on that gray matter and put a lot of wrinkles in that brain. I can tell. And also, being a city girl, I know you know what bakers do. When you buy a dozen of something, they give you a free, whatever it is, dozen rolls, what have you. So, your baker's question is, what is the thing that most people misunderstand about you?
Hmm. Well, I would say we have to ask them. I think, uh, hmm, in the past, I would say that I had like a tough edge. I didn't let people in. Losing Jim broke all of that down, and I have no walls. I don't know. That's a great question. Now I want to know the answer.
Let's keep going. I think you're onto something.
That there's a wall?
Well, actually, that people think there is. Do you think there is?
No, I think I'm like an open book.
There you go. That's the rest of the story, as they say. And not only that, you're maybe, just maybe, you're a available open book and not really hard to access if people will hang in there for a minute.
Yeah, I put it all out there. You can reach me anyway. Real numbers.
It's fantastic. And is there anything else about being misunderstood, possibly?
Well, I think in the world of grief, you look like you're fine. So as I am now 6+ years out there, working all the time, trying to change things, many people might think I've gotten through it. Um, and so I cry every day.
Yeah.
I don't hyperventilate in fetal position like I did the first year,
Yeah.
but I'm not okay. I cope better and I have much better tools and support system. But I just choose happiness and I choose a positive outlook. I'd give anything to have Jim here.
Yeah. 100%. And while you're speaking, I'm kind of left with that truism about people who appear to be always happy to everyone else have the same capacity at the other end, to really go deep and get lost in a moment or two of, just despair and what's going on here. And that's why being compassionate to people who you think have a lot of capacity for upset is really a good idea. That's that old saying, if you can be anything, first be kind. And especially with somebody who you think is got an edge, if you will. So So thank you. That's fantastic. And now that wraps up our scripted questions. And I'd like to ask you, Samantha, do you have any questions for me?
Ha, what how did you come to these questions?
Interesting.
Or like this format?
It was really me struggling with a question of during the 2016 to 2022 time period and hearing about all of these things going on at college campuses with identity politics, identity, this, that, and the other thing, and me kind of wondering, um, what is it about people? You know, what are people up to today? What do they think like? And so I shamelessly stole the concept from James Lipton and his, the Screen Actors Workshop, I believe it's called. It hasn't been on live for a little while because I think he may have passed, but the same questions to each one of them, and what's your favorite swear word, and when you get to the the pearly gates, what would you like for St. Peter to say to you, or whatever. And so I thought, how could I attract folks and give them a sense of comfort and safety in terms of answering pretty innocuous questions? I mean, because how threatening is when did you first notice what color your hair is? But everybody's got different things that leads to. And so I want to know more about people. I'm very curious. I'm an inquisitive guy and I love people. I don't know if you can tell that. I love everyone. I'm not afraid to say it out loud. And I tell all my networking buddies, I hug them and I tell them I love you. And I actually mean that. And I generate it in every moment. And I just haven't met everybody I love yet. I'm still meeting all of those people. So that was it. We had another podcast that we had started called Lighting the Candle, A World That Works. And I think we were 30 or 40 episodes into that. I think we're up over 150 on that one now. But is that a good answer to your question? That's kind of what drove this. I want to go and find out, given all of the identity training, and not going to use a psychological term that you and I both would know, but I'm basically going to say, that they're learning things that are not natural to learn in an environment that's not natural to be taught. And so I want to know, do they still feel the same way? I mean, how do people answer these questions? Are they all fundamentally just human beings? Kind of like you when you were 7 years old and you decided you wanted to be black when you grew up.
Yeah, I was ready.
Yeah, I got you. So that's it. Anything else?
What do you wanna be when you grow up?
Well, okay. I am I'm out to set the world on fire at my ripe old age of 70 next month. And I still feel that I can make a contribution one starfish on the beach at a time, and have those folks make a contribution one starfish at a time. And between us, we can make this world a pretty freaking safe and awesome place for people to put their head on the pillow. And so I'm really up to that. I really want to make as many friends as I possibly can. And I also want to train people in the areas that they say that they would like to be trained that will make them more powerful. I have more access to empowerment. And that's pretty much it. I'm an empowerment guy.
Well, you're doing it all.
Mayhaps I am. So, anything you'd like to say to the folks at home as kind of a wrap, and what this was like for you, and anything else you'd like to say at all?
I love natural conversations, I love getting to know people. If anyone is struggling, I'm an open book. You can always reach out. I don't just say that for giggles. Um, please don't struggle alone. If you don't want to reach out to me, if you are looking for someone else, I'll help you find that person. I just think that's the worst thing going on in this world is that people are struggling alone or silently and wait too long to get the support that is available. And so that's what I want to do is connect people with the support that they need, whether that's me or someone else.
Sure. And can they do that through GriefHab? And would you like to tell them how to do so, please?
Yeah, any and everything is on my website, which is samantharuth.com. Grief Hab is a free community to anyone who's dealt with any type of a loss or anyone who just wants to learn how to support people who have been.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. And I always predict things about my guest, and sometimes I'm really wrong. But with you, I was really right. I knew you'd be awesome, and you've been absolutely fabulous. So, thank you for being on. And I also want to address my folks at home. I've got some homework for all of you. This is what I want you to do. I want you to reach out to 4 or 5 of your dearest friends. I don't care, text, phone call, email, whatever it takes, carrier pigeon. Let them know that the world works because they are in it and that your life is great because you know they're out there and that you would really miss them if they weren't. Just do that. And let's see what that does for you in return. So, thank you all. Thank you, Samantha Ruth.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And that's what we've got for this week. Ladies and gentlemen, bye for now.
You've been listening to Simple Questions for 100 People, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can find every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.